Dear students, today we are speaking about the industry analysis as a part of strategic management. Generally, it is quite obvious that to craft strategy you need some information about internal environment of the company and the external environment of the company. During course management, we spoke about the most simple instrument of strategic analysis, SWOT analysis. In this type of analysis, it is possible to mix the analysis of internal environment of the company and of the external environment of the company. And today we will speak in detail about a little bit more complicated instrument of analysis of external environment, industry analysis. Generally, this type of analysis is quite important because it's also quite obvious, it must be obvious for you that it's not possible to create a winning strategy without understanding some special features of our market, our competitors, our customers, our suppliers. And today we will speak about like a general pattern, general like template of analyzing of an industry. Industries differ widely. You know that here at this picture you can see some agro-industrial firm which produces wheat, some chemical production, some machine building industry, it is like Turbina. But during the course management we spoke about that even a small company, for example, a beauty salon, also must have a strategy, also must use four main functions of management: planning, organizing, and motivating. And the last picture is connected with some event agency. All these enterprises are connected with different industries. But to analyze all these differences, we need to use some like same structure of analysis. And today we will speak about these very structure of industry analysis. Generally, when we want to analyze industry, we have to analyze a lot of factors. Now at this very screen you can see all these points, but today we are speaking about only the first point. Today we will speak about what are the industry's main economic features. For example, during the next lecture, we will speak about the second point, about main competitive forces, etc. Today, we will speak about only the first point. I'd like to stress one more time that under the industry in today's lecture we mean a group of firms which has similar or very close products. If translate this meaning the word industry into Ukrainian, it will be галузь. In Russian it is отрасль. And generally, there are a lot of characteristics of an industry, and at this very screen You can see the main characteristics, and we will speak about the main characteristics in detail. The general structure of the next screens. This red I marked. Excuse me. This red color I marked the feature, the characteristic of an industry. Under this information, this black color, I marked some tips about these characteristics of the market, and with green, it is the bottom part of the screen. You can see an example, a characteristics of sulfuric acid industry. Ринок сіркової кислоти. Хто не знає, це термін англійською мовою. Why I decided to choose this very market as an example? Because sulfuric acid is the main raw material for, I think, any chemical production. Even if speak any product from plastic needs this liquid, I mean sulfuric acid, as a raw material. And even clothes needs, any type of clothes needs this liquid, because any fabric must be painted somehow, and any paint needs this raw material. That's why I decided to take this market as an example. Okay, market size. In this very case, you have to mention the size of market in money units and in absolute units. Here is in million tons. And you have to take to keep in mind, that if the market is very big, it could attract new rivals, new competitors, and big competitors. And speaking a little bit forward, your next task is to conduct the same type of analysis. You have to leave the order of characteristics as it is mentioned at this very presentation, and you have to create an analysis in the form which is made in green for the sulfuric acid industry. So you have to mention the size of your market of your enterprise in money units, in dollars or in hryvnias, and in some absolute units, in tons, in decaliters, in units, I don't know. Maybe if it is an event agency, it will be in events, for example, also. The next factor, the next feature of an industry is scope of competitive rivalry. It means, if we translate in Ukrainian, це буде масштаб конкуренції. Масштаб конкуренції. The scope can be local, regional, national, and global. Local means that you are competing with only with enterprises which are situated in a small region, even in a district. Let's take an example. Okay, usually any service has a local scope of competition. For example, if speaking about beauty salon, if a lady wants to have new beautiful hair maid, so usually she will do it in the city she lives. Uh, Theoretically, yes, it is possible if we are speaking about maybe some famous actress, so maybe she has money to move from her city to another city. But generally, we are consuming the service in the place where we live. Regional. The next, regional scope of competition. Regional competition means that we are competing with the enterprises which are situated close to us, but maybe in next region. If speaking about Ukraine, it could be, for example, not only Kharkov region, but maybe Suma region, Dnipro region. As an example, it could be some products which deliveries is rather expensive. For example, if speaking about dairy products, products from milk, we need a refrigerator to transport these products, for example, from a western part of Ukraine. And that's why in Kharkov region it is rather difficult to find a lot of trademarks from western part of Ukraine. Actually, I could set an example, only one trademark, Galichina. I haven't seen any other trademarks of dairy products here. It's because transportation is rather expensive. National scope of competition. National scope of competition means that you are competing within a country. As an example, could be set market of educational services. Yes, generally, the percentage of people who want to get education out from Ukraine is bigger than, for example, 5 years ago, but generally, more than 90% of new students graduates of school will search for education within our country, within Ukraine. So we could say that it is a national scope of competition among all universities within Ukraine. And global competition means that all competitors compete within all over the world. Uh, to explain this scope of competition, we could use any industrial products. For example, I don't know, everybody has a mobile phone. This is an example of global competition because Samsung is competing with Nokia, is competing with Apple all over the world. The next feature of the industry is market growth rate and where the industry in the growth cycle. Why it is rather important? Because if the market is growing and we know that growth rate is rather big, it will also attract more competitors. But also you have to keep in mind that if the market is at the stage of decline, the competition at this very market will be like cutthroat. You will need this information for the next part of your project when you prepare 5-force analysis. The next factor is number of rivals and their relative size. Here you have to describe number of rivals. Why it is important? It is important because the more number of rivals, the closer the market to the pure competition, and vice versa. If there are only few competitors at some market, market became a monopoly, like this. The next factor is number of buyers and their relative sizes. Actually, at some markets you can see the situation that there are a lot of buyers, a big number. It's not possible even to count them. But in some markets there is a situation that there are only a few big buyers, and in this very case you have to follow their needs, their special needs. For example, if you come to a shop and ask some special products, and you will say, okay, I need some bread, some special bread for myself. If you go to kiosks of Kolinichi, for example, the seller will look at you as a madman, okay? But if you are producer of turbinas, and if a company, it was a situation when some company, as far as I remember, from Argentina, they wanted to buy a turbina from Hakov Turbina factory, and they demand transporting. Yes, they agree. They agree to pay for it, but organizing of the process must be connected with the supplier, and the supplier had to follow these demands. The next point which must be described is prevalence of backward and forward integration. Generally, integration means that a company merges its suppliers or its intermediaries. Here is the general picture of the vertical integration process. Here we are manufacturers marked with red square, and if we want to organize, for example, some store to sell our goods, for example, if we want to organize website and sell our products through this website. In this very case, we are speaking about forward integration. And in some cases, we can merge, or we can organize a supplier. In this case, we are speaking about backward vertical integration. And here at the next screen you can see some examples. From the left part of this picture you can see the example of vertical integration in milk industry, and from the right picture you can get information about vertical integration in petroleum industry. The next factor is types of distribution channels used to access buyers. In these characteristics, you have to describe number of intermediaries. From this picture, you can see that in some cases it could be like direct selling from you to final customer, and in some cases it could be one, two, or even more intermediaries. The next factor which must be described is the pace of technological changes. It means that in some industries it is the only possible way to survive is to use new and new technologies. And in some industries, the pace of technological changes is not very fast. Then you have to describe type of the product regarding differentiation. It means in some industries there are some standards, or there is one standard for the product, and the products of the industry are essentially identical. For example, if speaking about our industry, which was taken as an example, the market of sulfuric acid, this market has identical product because it is a chemical formula, and the only things which could vary is maybe transportation, but the product is standard. And in other industries, for example, if speaking about I don't know, fashionable clothes, this market is highly differentiated market. And why it is very important, we also need this information when we prepare the model 5 forces, because if the product is standard, it is quite easy to switch from one product to another. The next characteristics is it whether it is possible to use economies of scale. The explanation of this factor is presented at the next screen. You must know that the bigger quantity of a product you are purchasing, delivering, the less expensive, the cheaper is the process. For example, to deliver one unit usually is much more expensive compared this delivering several items or big number of items. And in some industry this effect is more visible, and in some industries this effect is less visible. Less visible it is the upper line, and more visible it is the bottom line with, for example, 30% cost reduction at this very picture. The next characteristic is resource requirements. Within these characteristic, within this point, you have to answer to the question: how much does it cost to launch the business you are describing? How much? How is it possible to to set up the business. We need this information to evaluate barriers of entry to the business in the model of 5 forces. So you have to calculate if it is rather difficult for you to calculate some exact figure, it will be some approximate figure. And the main characteristics of an industry is industry profitability. First of all, you have to compare it with average for the country, and also you have to mention some particular figure for these characteristics. So the average profitability of our industry is 13%, like this. And I do hope that after today's lecture, you really understood that it is quite important thing to conduct this type of analysis for the strategy, because it's not possible to create a winning strategy without understanding external environment of the company. And industry analysis, it is one of the crucial parts of external environment analysis. And the task for next time is to conduct the analysis of your industry. You have to use the order of characteristics mentioned in this very presentation. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.